Okay, we are starting with um, this tutorial on data with R. Our goal is threefold. We want to understand objects in RStudio. We want to um, read data from a file, and we want to write data to a file. So three things. So let's get started. Objects, everything in R and RStudio is an object, and so some of these are vectors, some of these are factors, and we'll be working mostly with data frames. A vector can be numeric, character, or logical. It could be a bunch of numbers, it could be text, or it could be true or false values. Factor same, can be numeric or character. Data frame can be all those three things. So if we have a vector, the mode and the length is going to describe our data. We want to use mode in parentheses x to find the mode. It's going to tell us whether we're dealing with something that's numeric or character. And length is going to give us the length of our vector. So how many elements do we have in this vector? For other objects, we like to describe the data, and there's a few ways we can do this using attributes like dimension, dim like names to know the name of the columns, like the number of rows and row, and like the structure str, all kinds of information we can find out. So next, how do we read data in a file? How do we read data from a file rather? Two main ways. We want to use read.table or read.csv. So here I'm showing on this slide data from a file on serials, and we have information on the name of the cereal, the manufacturer, the type, whether it's cold or hot, number of calories, protein, etc. So let's see, how do we go about finding out that information. So we need to be able to go to the internet. So I'm going now, and I want to search Google, and I'd like to search for my serial data. So serial CMU, and it's a 1993.expo, or it's expo.1993, I'm not sure either way. So here we go, the second link in there. I'm going to click on this, and it leads to, well, yeah, this one is fine, although fine, and it gives me a bunch of information, and in particular if I scroll down it gives me information on cereals now. So I have information on cereals, a bunch of questions one could ask, breakfast cereal data, okay, multivariate data set describing 77 commonly available breakfast cereals, okay. So we scroll down, and we see some information on the variables, the name, the manufacturer, the type, the calories, etc. And if we scroll down some more, we get to click on a link that gets us to our data. So this is where our data resides. It's at this address. I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to copy this thing, and then I'll return to, or I'll go over to RStudio. So let me load RStudio. Here we go, it's coming in just a moment. It's going to load, and we'll be able to read the data from this file. And what we're going to use first is read.table, okay? Read.table is what we're going to first use. So let me just clear what's not necessary. Here we go. So my data, I want to call it serial less than minus, so that I can point the arrow to the object called serial that I'm going to create. And here I want to read table, and what I'd like to read here is a file, and so the file I'm going to read, I need to put quotation mark, and then I can just point to the address, and I press enter, and I have it. If I look on my environment, I see serial, 77 observation, 15 variables, and if I just type dim, so I can find the dimension of this object, it tells me 77 by 15. If I type names, so I can find the name of the columns of the variables here, it tells me v1, v2, v3, v4. That's not very helpful, okay. And so I want to use the proper name for my variable as I had mentioned. Here we go, and this is what I want to put in. I have the names now for my variables. Notice it's no longer name in some strange and funny ways with these. It's now name, manufacturer, type, calories, etc. So my data is in there. If I want to see the first few um, columns, I can just type head, and it tells me, okay, those are the first few columns and rows of my data. So this is what I wanted to obtain. So the data is loaded. What can we do with this data? Well, no problem. We can find, for instance, with the cereal, we can find the mean, for instance, sugar, right? We can find the mean sugar. Oops, this is not what I wanted. We can find the mean sugar. We press enter. We get a mean value. Okay, or we can say with a subset of the cereal. Suppose I wanted the um, type that's only cold, and this time I want to do a summary. Okay, but I'd like to do a summary by maybe a manufacturer, right? So I'd like to do a summary about manufacturer, or rather I'd like to plot things. Let's just go ahead and plot. Yeah, I'd like to plot the sugar, but by what? I'd like to plot the sugar by manufacturer. Okay, and let's see what that gives me. It tells me the margins are too large. When you see this, that means you double click on plots, and then you do your plot again. Okay, so now that I did my plot again, it's not complaining, it's fine with this, and it's giving me a box plot for comparison. I just like to make my box plot a little nicer, so I'm going to make it horizontal. I say yes. I have to say LAS equals 1 because that's important, and and maybe I give it a title to my plot, and I say comparing sugar level, and I press enter, and so here's my plot, and it's nice now. It's a box plot, side by side, comparing and I can click on zoom if I want to see it nicer and bigger, and there it is. And now it's comparing the sugar level for these different manufacturer. G is for General Mills, K is for Kellogg, N is for Nabisco, and so on and so forth. And we can compare the ones that have more sugar, those that have less sugar. So that's the first way of doing things for loading data from the internet. So let's go back to the slides. So now, as far as the slides go, here we go. So first one was read the table, and notice we're able to get the same table as the one I'm showing you. Second way, okay, second way to do this to read data in a file is read.csv. So here I'm showing now baseball data, and so I have player, team, position, and salary. And so let's see how can we load data again from the internet where we have this information, and then we can do some ordering, some sorting, some analyzing and exploring our data. So let's see about this. This time it's read.csv. Okay, so let's move forward, and let's go to our open intro. Okay, in open intro, when open intro slash data. Okay, open intro slash data, and when we here we have the data sets from our textbook. We scroll down and we want to find MLB. So let me just go find MLB. I have MLB right here. I'm going to click on MLB, and it tells me I have salary data for Major League Baseball in 2010. The variables are player, team, position, and salary. Okay, give me the source. The CSV file is here. I could click and save it, but I'm not even going to do this. I'm just going to copy the link, and then I'm going to go right back into RStudio and ask RStudio to load this baseball data for me. But this time, the arrow points to the object called baseball. It's read.csv. I have to give the file name. I need to use quotation marks. This is done. Good. I need to set a header is true, and I need to add these strings as factor, and I want to set this is false. When I do this and I press enter, it works nicely, and I can look in my environment, and in the environment I see baseball. Serial is still there, of course, but baseball is now available for us. So if we want to find a dimension of baseball, dim, and it tells us 828 by 4. If you want the names of baseball, we do this, and it tells us that. And we could do many things with baseball, right? So we could say with baseball, just mean salary, for instance, right? And there we go. Or we could say instead of mean salary, this is in thousands of dollars, so 3,281,000, so 3 million, right? And so we could say with baseball, we could um, do by, okay, and by what? We could do by position. We want to get the salary, and we want to get the mean salary by position. And if we do this, it should, oops, I did it the wrong way now, backwards. It's the salary first and the position next. The salary is going to be split by position. Did it backwards again. Here we go. Typical mistake. Um, First baseman, infielder, outfielder, pitcher, second baseman, shortstop, third baseman, etc., etc. Right. So if we want to do some comparisons, we could clearly do this by position, and notice the catchers, they earn a bit less than, or rather, quite a bit less than the pitchers. The first baseman, the designated hitters, earn quite a bit. And so, if we wanted, for instance, to do some sorting to see who earns more, we could say with baseball, would like to uh, sort, right? So we'd like to sort um, by, okay, and we're going to say um, by this is player and um, salary, and we'd like to sort this, and we could do this, and it's going to sort everybody, all the players by salary. Notice with the year 2010, so we got Derek Jeter, CC Sabathia, and A Rod, Alex Rodriguez, earning the most. A Rod was 33,000 thousands of dollars. Okay, well, okay, so what if we want to do the same thing, but let's just only look at a subset of the data, and I'm interested only in the San Francisco Giants, for instance. So team, I need a double equal, and I have to type San Francisco Giants. It's important to type it correctly because any typo, the computer will say it has no idea what you're asking. And so here we go. And so we see Tim Lincecum, 9,000 thousands. Edgar Renteria, 10,000 thousand. We get Aaron Rowand, and we have Barry Zito as the Giants players earning the most. And this is the second way of reading data from a file. Okay, now let's just go back to the slides. And what else do we have to do? So we read data from a file when we introduced objects. Now how about saving data? We can save data using write.table, or we can save data using save, and then we can reload it later. So write.table is straightforward, but you just have to name your file some proper way. So some file.txt, for instance. And we'd like to use save and load, and then we'll be done. And so here we go. So with my data here, I have baseball and cereal, and I'm just going to go ahead and save baseball, cereal, and I want to give it a name. So file name, and I'm just going to call it baseball underscore cereal.txt, or rather, not .txt, the R data. That's what I want to call this. I want to save it in a data file that R knows how to load right away. So it's saved, and now I'm going to erase everything. On the side where it says environment, I have a folder, floppy disk, import data set. So notice I didn't say anything about this, but you can just import data directly from Excel, for instance, or for some file by just clicking here and following the instructions in case you prefer to not have to type anything or you get too many errors going that way. So there's the broom there. I'm going to click on the broom. It says, do you want to remove everything? Let's just clear everything. I don't want anything left in here. And if now, for instance, I ask for baseball, right? And suppose I want just the first row, and I press enter, it tells me baseball is not found. It's not even here. Okay, fine. Let's load it then. Right? Let's load baseball, and we call this thing baseball serial or data. And now if I load baseball the first row, no problem. Brandon Webb. Okay, and if I wanted to have my subset of baseball where the team is again the San Francisco Giants, and I press enter, and here they all are the San Francisco Giants. Oops, I should scroll up so we can see where they are. And here are all the players. Pablo Sandoval, third baseman in 2010. Okay, this is the roster. Matt Cain, pitcher, right? Tim Lincecum, pitcher. Barry Zito, pitcher. Aubrey Huff, first baseman, etc. Okay, so quite the roster here for the year 2010, and so this ends it. We're able to do a few things, right? We're able to um, save data, we were able to read data in the file, and we introduced objects, and this was data with R.